As you guys know from the website where you signed up for this webinar and from the slide that you can see on your screen, in this session, we are going to cover the topic of quiz chatbots and how you can use them to boost the user engagement on your marketing campaigns. Now, as always with these webinars, we like to go through a quick intro where we tell you a little bit about who we are at DARS, who I am, giving this webinar to you, run through some basic definitions that you need to know to better understand what we're doing in the live build. Then we'll go through a live build where you guys can actually follow along if you sign up for the DARS builder and build your own quiz chatbot. And then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for a Q&A. So to begin with, a quick intro, because I feel like I owe it to you guys to tell you who we are at DARS and who I am and why you should listen to what I'm saying today and why you should take what I'm saying today as being valuable information, because I could just be any person off the street telling you that you need to use a quiz chatbot in your marketing campaigns. So to begin with, at DARS, we have been in the chatbot space for almost 5 years now. It's about 4.5. And we've been helping businesses primarily boost their conversion rates using chatbots. Now, in most cases, that has generally looked like replacing a lead capture form with a chatbot. So just straight up going from a form to a chatbot, having that increase the conversion rate because it's more engaging. But in a considerable number of cases, we actually also help boost user engagement. So the idea is that people have customers in their funnels or they're running ads, especially on social media, and they're not seeing enough engagement on those ads. They're not seeing enough engagement from those people in their funnels. So we help them boost that engagement. And in the process of boosting that engagement, we usually help them increase the conversion rate. And one of the ways we do that is actually through quiz chatbots, which is what we are covering in the webinar today. Now, as for who I am, I have been working at DARS for almost 4 years now, so almost since the beginning, and I'm a conversational designer at DARS. So I actually build a lot of the chatbots that we create for our customers, and I'm a marketer. So I create content just like this webinar to help other bot builders, other marketers out there like yourselves to create chatbots of your own and see some of the results that we see with some of our other clients. And with that, we can actually jump into the actual meat and bones of the webinar, which is quiz chatbots. And to actually introduce the topic of quiz chatbots, we need to run through a couple of definitions. The first one, if you've been on one of our webinars before, you'll know that we always like to run through the definition of a chatbot because we have a slightly different take on what a chatbot is at DARS. The traditional definition of chatbots is generally looks like what you're seeing on the screen right now. It's a computer program designed to simulate a conversation between human users, to facilitate a trade of information or services. So the bot on the right of the screen, as you can see, is getting the user a free quote for a mortgage through the conversation in the chat interface. Now, this definition, it's technically correct, but it leaves a lot to be desired. It's super vague. It leaves the door open for a lot of different options. And when you leave the door open to a lot of different types of use cases, I found that marketers especially tend to get a little bit ahead of themselves. They tend to overpromise. They tend to think that they can achieve a lot more with a piece of technology than they can. And the end result is a piece of software that doesn't really please anyone. It's not good for the users. It's not good for the customers. It's not good for the marketer. In the case of chatbots, what that usually looks like is people try to create the ultimate sales rep powered by AI and all this other fancy tech. Even though the tech isn't quite there, and inevitably what ends up happening is someone sends a message that the bot isn't ready for, and it responds with a response like, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were saying." Everyone's disappointed and the bot fails. So the other reason we don't like this definition is because it's kind of boring. It's like something straight out of a dictionary, and it's not particularly new. It's not particularly innovative. So the definition that we like to use at DARS is the chatbots are basically conversational forms. And by that, what we mean is you can take a regular form that you have on your webpage, and you can take all of those fields and capture all of that exact same information through a chat interface using a chatbot. So over here, as you can see, the bot which I showed you earlier was actually created from a form on a landing page. And if you guys were on our previous webinar, you will know, oh, I've noticed that a bunch of other people have joined as well. Thanks for joining, guys. We're right at the beginning of the webinar. We're just running through some basic definitions. So don't worry, you guys will pick it up. We're just running through what a chatbot is. And I was just telling everyone that at TARS, we look at a chatbot as a conversational form. So basically collecting the same information that you would through a form through a chatbot, because it's a more engaging medium to do the same. Now, the second definition that you guys need to know going into this webinar is what a quiz is. And as you can see, I didn't really finish the slide because we all know what quizzes are. They've been around for some time, especially in the world of digital marketing. If you've ever scrolled through Facebook in the last decade, you'll know exactly what a quiz is, because they are everywhere. It's actually what made companies like BuzzFeed as big as they are. A lot of these titles that you're seeing on the side, actually all of them, are from BuzzFeed. And as you might imagine from those two definitions, a quiz chatbot is when you put both of those pieces of technology together. It's when you administer a quiz, but instead of using that traditional quiz layout where people select those multiple choices and they just keep moving through it. It's essentially a glorified form. You do it through a chat interface, like you're seeing on the right side of the screen over here. Now, you might be wondering why you want to use a quiz chatbot in your marketing campaign. So this is a cool piece of technology. It's neat. We've defined it really well, but what's the point of it? Why is it important? Why should you consider using it in your marketing campaign? And the answer to that sort of splits into, it can be split into two parts. First has to do with just the general role of quizzes in marketing campaigns. What we found, and I'm sure you guys have found this too, most prospects do not like being sold to. I mean, if you look at yourselves, no one really likes having someone approach them and telling them that they need something, that they need to buy something. So when you run ads, when you send emails to people who are already in your funnel, telling them to click on a page where they're going to read through a bunch of information and share their lead information, even if that page is a conversational landing page, if you saw our previous webinar, they're not likely to actually make that click. They're not going to make that click and land on the page, because the entire process of reading through a bunch of information, filling out lead information is boring. And it feels very salesy, and people really don't like being sold to. With a quiz, on the other hand, you're gamifying that user-company interaction. You are essentially telling prospects that if they click on the link, they are going to have a little bit of fun. They're going to play a game with you. The selling is completely incidental to the interaction. And that gives the prospects more incentive to actually click on your link and have that interaction with you. So you can think of a quiz essentially as a way to capture your users' attention. And if you've been in the digital marketing space for any amount of time, you'll know that attention is your key resource. You need attention to do anything in digital marketing. If you want to get a prospect to do something, you need their attention. And quizzes are a great way to do that, to capture that attention. Now, the second part of the argument in favor of quiz chatbots has to do with using chatbots. So it's the case for chatbots. Now, we've established that quizzes are a great way to capture user attention, but why do you want to conduct that quiz through a chatbot? And the argument for that all boils down to personality. In a regular quiz, as I alluded to before, the interface is essentially a glorified form. The prospect lands on it, and they are clicking through all of those questions. They are clicking through all of those options completely on their own. And at the end, a result gets spit out. It's not particularly personal. It doesn't feel like they're actually having the interaction with the company. It's almost like they've walked into your office, you handed them a clipboard, they fill out the form on that clipboard, they hand it back to you, and you say, wow, you got this score, or this is the serial that represents who you are, or something like that. So what chatbots do is they basically take that exact same impersonal experience and they turn it into an actual interaction, and you can do some cool stuff with that. So what we like to do a lot, as you can see in this GIF, is we like to give people a game show sort of vibe. We make the chatbot the host of the game show, and we make the user the participant. And as they go through that interaction, they feel like they're actually playing a game with someone, and that makes them more likely to actually complete the quiz and reach the end, where you can get them to do something, like share some information or use a coupon or something like that. Now, all of that value is great. Quiz chatbots, great way to capture user attention, great way to get people to actually complete user interactions, and actually get them to do something at the end, share their email, redeem a coupon. But as always, the value that you see from this technology all completely boils down to implementation. If you implement a quiz chatbot poorly, you are not going to see any value from it. It's just like with any other piece of tech. If you make a regular landing page and all the elements are completely off, it's not mobile optimized, people aren't going to use it, regardless of how useful or how valuable your product or your service is. So with that, we can actually move on to the live build section of this webinar. That's why we're on this webinar today, to show you guys how to build a quiz chatbot. So I'm going to switch really quick over here into the onto the TARS website. In case you guys haven't already signed up for it, wow, I can see that people are still joining. Thank you guys for joining us today. We're about to start the live build section of this webinar. So if you guys haven't already signed up for it, we are going to be using the TARS builder in this live build. So you can go to our website, hellotars.com. You can see the URL in the top over here. It's a purple looking page. Click the green sign up button in the top right corner. There is going to be a pretty basic looking sign up form. So give us all your details. We promise we won't do anything weird with them. We promise we won't spam you with emails. So I'm going to give it one of my webinar emails. Pick a secure password, obviously, and give us your phone number. So 046914. Hit the create account button, and that'll initialize your account. A lot of you guys on this webinar right now, I'm noticing, are people who have already signed up for our builder, so you've probably already been through this entire process. By default, when you sign up, you're going to be dropped into the chatbot template section of the builder. This is a really neat section, but we're not going to be using it in this webinar. We might host another webinar completely dedicated to chatbot templates, but essentially we have a couple of hundred chatbot templates that you can use as the base for your chatbot creation process. Instead, what we are going to do in this webinar is create a chatbot from scratch. And for that, what you need to do is click the TARS button at the top of the page. That's going to drop you into the My Chatbots section of the builder. As you can see, My Chatbots is selected on the left side of the screen. And you want to click the blue Create a Chatbot button right in the center of the screen. Give your chatbot a name. So over here, we're going to call it Quiz Chatbot. Hit Create from Scratch, and that's going to initialize your creation workspace, where you are actually going to define the messages that the chatbot sends and check the data that the chatbot collects. Now, before we actually get into the creation of the chatbot, I highly recommend that in the case of a quiz chatbot, you keep your questions ready in a Google Doc or a Word doc. In this particular session, what we are going to do is create a travel quiz for, say, a travel agent or a hotel group, maybe. This is one of the industries where we've seen quiz chatbots used a lot amongst our users. So we're just going to repurpose some of that content. So as you can see over here, I have a couple of questions. There are about 4 of them prepared around the topic of travel in a Google Doc. And what we are going to do is we are going to take these questions and we are going to code them into the into the essentially the brain of our chatbot. We're going to define the chatbot's flow based on these questions. Now, the first thing that you want to do before you even jump into these questions is to create an intro to the chatbot. So people click on your Facebook ad, they click on that link that you've sent them in their emails. And what's the first thing that they see? What's the first thing that the chatbot tells them? So for that, what you want to do is hit the Add a Gambit button in, I see that someone is raising their hand. Does anyone have an issue right now? You guys can all see my screen. Awesome. If you guys, I noticed that there are a bunch of people who have just joined the session. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, or just send me a message in the Zoom chat. I'll be more than happy to answer it while we are in the session. If you have any doubts about what I'm doing on the screen, feel free to ask, and I will be more than happy to clarify. So where was I? Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is hit the green Add a Gambit button in the top left of the screen. Now this is going to create this little element over here that we call a Gambit at ours. And what it represents is a single back and forth between the bot and the user. So over here, you can define what the bot says in these messages, and down below, you can define how the user can respond. And we have a bunch of custom input UIs for you to select from. So if you're accepting an appointment, you can use calendar and time. If you're collecting feedback, you can use a star rating. If you want location, you can use geolocation. We'll probably leave a link on the video of this webinar at the end to a help doc that explains what each of these do. For now, though, we're going to focus on the intro for our quiz chatbot. And as I mentioned before, the vibe we usually try to go for in our quiz chatbots at DARS is the game show vibe. Because it is a conversation between two parties, the chatbot and the user, we can add a little bit of personality to the quiz taking process for the user. And the best way, the most common way that we found to do that is by just recreating the feeling of being on a quiz show. So we're going to say something like, welcome to the awesome travel group travel quiz. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have a little bit of an aid over here helping me with the messages that I'm going to put in this intro. The next thing that we want to do after we have told them where they are, so they've clicked on the link, they've landed on the bot, we've told them what they are in store for. They're going to give a travel quiz administered by our company, our fictional company, which is the awesome travel group. Now, the next message that we want to send to them is we want to introduce the actual host for this interaction. So over here, we can say something like, I am DARS. I'm DARS, your quiz master for today. Quiz master. And today we'll be taking a look at just how much you know about the world of travel. So over here now, essentially what we've done is we've welcomed them to the interaction. We have told them who we are and what is going to happen in the interaction. We're going to administer a quiz. And we are telling them who the chatbot is. We're giving the chatbot a little bit of a personality. Now, what I usually like to do when I have a personality associated with the chatbot, I like to throw in a GIF because people are visual creatures. And they always appreciate having a visual thing to look at instead of just plain text. So I saved a couple of GIFs over here from before. I'm going to incorporate the bow GIF over here. So it's just a guy on stage bowing in what seems to be a quiz show. And there we have the GIF in there. Now we need to tell them what they get after giving this entire quiz. So we've told them where they are, we've told them who the bot is, and now we want to tell them what incentive they have to complete the quiz. So over here we can say something like, based on your responses, I'll give you a prize that matches your travel needs. Now, essentially what's happening over here is the bot is telling the user that if they complete this quiz, they're going to get something at the end. That can be a coupon, that can be a free consultation with a travel consultant. Depending on your business, that prize is going to be different. But that's where the real sales pitch starts. So that's where where you actually get them to buy something or generate a lead or do something like that. And the way we're phrasing it as a prize makes it feel like it's all part of the game. And that's what makes people more likely to continue. Now, speaking of making people more likely to continue, we want it to be as easy as possible for people to begin the quiz. And the best way to do that, in our experience, is to use a button. So now the thing is, you could start with the quiz questions immediately, but that requires a little bit of thinking, and you want people to click on something as soon as they land on the page. And the best way to do that is to just give them a start quiz button, because if they don't really need to think to click the start quiz button, and once they've clicked it, they've invested some amount of time, some amount of effort into the actual quiz, and that makes them a little bit more likely to actually continue all the way through to the end. I'm also going to rename my Gambit over here to intro. I always like to keep my workspace clean so that I know exactly what each Gambit is doing. Over here, I'm looking at it without the messages, without the user input, and I already know that it is the intro. Now, from this first Gambit, we can move directly into the questions. So we're going to add another Gambit over here. We're going to connect the two of them together using the red socket. So you just click and drag from the bottom red socket on the first Gambit to the top red socket on the second Gambit. And now we can go into the second Gambit and start to put in our quiz questions. So over here, I'm going to take the first question from my Google Doc, which I prepared earlier. I highly recommend that you guys do this, and paste it in here. In terms of the options, I am going to give them these ones over here. So France, America, Spain, China, and Italy. So France, America, Spain, China, and Italy. Now, before we continue, and before we add a little bit more to these messages, we need to find a way to score each one of these options. So one of these options is correct. It's France, as you can see from the responses over here, and we need to tell the bot which one of these is the correct options. Now, to do that, we need to actually activate an advanced feature in the DARS builder. So what you want to do is hit the save button in the top right, click on the DARS button at the top. It's going to take you back to your chatbot, your My Chatbot section of the builder. Click on settings on the left side of the screen, enable bot features. And then once you're over here, go ahead and just enable all of the bot features that are there. You'll get a notification for each one. After that, you can jump back to the bot section, click on the DARS button at the top, and click on the quiz chatbot and continue. So now, once we jump into the question one, Gambit of the bot, we need to tell the bot which one is the correct option. And when I click the plus button over here, you can see I have a couple of more options to select from. And the one we are going to use is the option val. It's going to be the option val feature. So when you click the plus button, it should look like a little bit of a tag. And when you hover over it, it says option val. So click on option val next to the button. Now we can give each of these buttons an underlying value. So over here, I'm going to give France 1, and I'm going to give all the other ones 0 because they are incorrect. Now the bot knows that, now the bot knows that the correct option in this question is France because it has a value of 1 and everything else has a value of 0. Once we hit save, we can move on to the next set of gambits. Now, once someone actually responds to one of these questions, sorry, got a little something caught in my throat. Once someone responds to one of these questions, we want the bot to react to that response. We want the bot to tell them whether they got the question correct or they got the question wrong. So to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to create two separate gambits, one for if they got it correct and one for if they got it incorrect. And we are going to connect all the correct options, so France in this case, which is the first option, to one of the gambits, and we're going to connect all of the incorrect options. So that was all of the other options over there, America, China, Italy, Spain, to the other gambit. Now within these gambits, we can create a custom response based on what the user has said. So we can say something like correct, or better yet, we can send them a GIF indicating that they got it correct. So over here, I'm going to click on the, in case you guys didn't see what I was doing, click on the plus button. There is a camera icon. Click on that. Upload an image, and we can upload one of these correct options over here. So correct one. It's going to upload a GIF, I think, from Futurama, and that just adds a little bit of personality to the bot. Instead of just saying a plain text correct, we're sending them a GIF, which makes it a little bit more visual and makes it a little bit more fun and a little bit more interactive. Now we can inform them a little bit, so we can say something like France is in fact the most visited country in the world with, how much was it? 84.5 million tourists visiting the country every year. Okay, so now we have acknowledged the user input when they have got it correct. Now we need to go do the exact same thing for when they got it wrong. So Q1 wrong. We can again use a GIF over here. So click the plus button, click the camera, upload a GIF for wrong. So I've saved a GIF for if the user got one of the questions incorrect, upload that over here, and we can give them a message that indicates they got it wrong and inform them what the correct answer is. I'm afraid the correct answer is actually France. They receive over 84.5 million tourists every year. Okay. So now we have got both the correct branch set up and we've got the wrong branch set up. Now, after we have told them whether they've got something correct or incorrect, we want to move on to the next question. But to do that, we don't need a user input over here. We don't need the user to type something out and send something to us because that wouldn't make any sense. Okay, you got the question correct. Say, oh, wow, I got it correct. That doesn't really make any sense. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give the user no input. So what's going to happen is the bot is going to ask the first question. The user is going to respond. If they get the answer correct, it'll send them these messages. It won't give them an input, and they'll move on to the next gambit, which can be the next question. So we're going to do that in the wrong branch as well. Select no input, hit save. And now we can add the second question to our quiz flow. So we're going to add another gambit, connect the correct and wrong branches to the gambit for the second question, jump in, and we can do exactly what we did for the first question. Take the question over here, paste it in. And actually, if you guys were here on the previous webinar, I have made a mistake in this chatbot. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in both of my questions, I did not acknowledge the user input. And this is something we highly recommend that you do. Whenever a user sends you a message, even if it is just clicking a start quiz button, you want to acknowledge the fact that you got that input. You don't want to jump right into the questions because it doesn't really do anything to add personality to the bot. And personality is really what's getting you the value out of using a chatbot. So I'm going to go back to Q1 and I'm going to add a little bit of a user input acknowledgement. So I'm going to say, great. The first question is a bit of a tricky one. And now we can actually even throw in a emoji. So select the emoji picker, say surprise. and drop that in at the end. Hit save. And now we can move on to question 2. So actually we can use that as the user input acknowledgements. We can say moving on. Which city gets the most visitors per year? I didn't get too creative with my questions. As you can see, this question is quite similar to the previous one, but we're just going to go with it. We can add the options over here and take the actual options from our doc and paste them in. So Bangkok, what were the other ones? Paris, London, Dubai, and Singapore. Paris, London, Dubai, and Singapore. Again, we want to tell the bot which one of these is correct. So we're going to click the plus button next to each of these options, select the option value, which is this tag looking icon, and tell it which one is correct. So over here, Bangkok is correct. Paris is incorrect. I'm getting this, by the way, from the numbers that I have over here. So Bangkok has the highest number of visitors each year. So Bangkok gets a value of 1. Paris gets a value of 0. Dubai and Singapore also get a value of 0. And this is actually going to be super useful for us later when we're doing the calculation for how much the prospect scored on the quiz. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Again, we want to have an incorrect direction and a correct direction. So we create 2 gambits. We send the correct option in one direction, and we send everything else in the other direction. Now, within each of these gambits, we want to do exactly what we did for the first question. So this is Q1 correct, sorry. And this is Q1 or Q2 wrong. Did I get that correct? Yep, Q2 correct and Q2 wrong. Now, in each of these, we can again acknowledge the user input. I love using GIFs, especially for quiz chatbots. So we're going to use a GIF again over here. In case you guys are wondering where I get my GIFs from, I use Giphy. So over here, for example, I looked up quiz show, and it's showing me a wall of GIFs about quiz shows that I can use in my chatbot. So over here, I saved a couple of GIFs from Giphy to use in my chatbot. And I'm going to use one of them over here. So the second correct GIF, I'm going to drop it in here. I was actually having an argument yesterday about whether it's GIF or GIF with someone. I say GIF. Most people say GIF. The person who actually invented this format calls it a GIF. So I'm going to stick with GIF, actually. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong in the messages or the question and answer if you guys want. But I'm going to stick with GIF over here. Now they got the question correct over here. So we're going to, again, tell them that they got it correct. So bingo, Bangkok is the most visited city in the world with a staggering, how much was it? 22.78 million tourists a year. 22.78 million tourists per year. We can make that bold. Again, we don't need user input, so we're going to select no input, hit save. Similarly, on the wrong side, delete the boilerplate message, add a GIF that indicates they were wrong. So over here, we can say something. We can give them a Gordon Ramsay GIF, maybe, and move on to the acknowledgement. The correct answer is actually Bangkok with a staggering 22.78 million tourists per year. Make 28.78 million tourists bold. Adjust the message delay over here. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I'm having a little bit of a brain fade. These bubbles over here are message delays. So it basically tells you how many seconds the bot is going to wait before sending the message to the right. So how many seconds is it going to show that typing animation before it sends the message to the right? Again, change it to no input and hit save. And it just struck me that a lot of you guys actually might not have used the TARS builder before. So before we continue to the next question, we can actually hit publish on this chatbot and see what it looks like so far. So if I hit the preview button over here, it's going to prepare my preview, and we can see what we built so far. So welcome to the Awesome Travel Group Travel Quiz. I'm Tars, your quiz master, and today we will be taking a look at just how much you know about the world of travel. Based on your responses, I'll give you a prize that matches your travel needs. Okay, so we've introduced them to the quiz, hit start quiz, and now it's going to move into the actual question and answer. So which country gets the most visitors per year? Let's say France, because we know that France is the correct option. Sends me the GIF, tells me how many tourists France gets per year, and then moves on to the next question. Over here, let's give it the incorrect option. So let's say London. Over here, it's going to say wrong and tell me that the correct answer is actually Bangkok. Now we can move on to the third question over here. And I might actually cut this quiz a little short. I actually had 4 questions over here, but in the interest of time, I am going to actually just keep it at 3 questions. And I really want to include this third question because it's a different way to administer a quiz question in these quiz chatbots that I really want to show you guys. And this is what we like to call a picture question. So over here, we're going to call it Q3. And instead of asking them a question with a bunch of options, we're going to show them an image and ask them to identify where that image is. So we can say something like, where was the following picture taken? And actually, before we do that, as always, we want to acknowledge their user input. Over here, I'm going to drop a pointing emoji pointing at the image. Let's first drop in this user input acknowledgement. We can say on to the next question. This is going to be a very emphatic quiz master. Uses a lot of exclamation marks. And now we're going to drop the actual picture for them. So it's a picture of the Eiffel Tower. Again, I've gone ahead and saved that picture beforehand. You can find these sorts of pictures on Google Images, of course. Where else are you guys going to go? Drop the picture in, and once it has been uploaded, you can start putting in the input options. Actually, you can start doing that before it's uploaded as well. I have no idea why I was waiting. So over here, again, we're going to give them a set of regular options to select from. And I think the options I came up with were Spain, France, the US, England, and Ireland. So Spain, France, England, America, and Ireland. Again, we want to tell the bot which one is correct. So Spain is clearly wrong. France is correct. So we're going to give it an option value of 1. Click the plus button, option value 0. And we're going to do that for all of these. And now, since we're cutting the quiz short, we can actually move directly on to the quiz calculation part. So now the users have answered all 3 of the questions. And actually, since this is the last question, we can actually tell them that this is the final question up here. We can say on to the next question. We can say, okay, final question. Where was the following picture taken? And now we can actually move on to the quiz calculation part, now that we've acknowledged it properly. So we've asked the user 3 questions over here. I'm going to close this preview. We've asked the user 3 questions. We've figured out whether their responses are correct or not based on these option values that we have put underneath each of the buttons. Again, just to recap, by using the option value feature, you click the plus button, click the tag, we can give each of these options an underlying value. So Bangkok over here, the correct one, has 1 and everything else has 0. And we're ready to add up all of their values and get a final score. Now to do that, we are going to actually need the help of an API. So let's get our bot set up for that API call. To do that, what we want to do is add the Gambit button, click the add a Gambit button. And over here, since we are going to go into the calculation regardless of which option they select, we are going to, actually, you know what? we can do the same Q1, Q3 correct, Q3 wrong thing that we did before. So we can move all the incorrect ones. So over here, I think France was the correct one, and it was the second option. We can move that to the correct direction, and we can move all the incorrect options to the incorrect direction over here. Rename the gambits, so Q3, correct. Make it no input, and tell them that they got it correct. We have a GIF for this one as well. As you can see, I love GIFs. If you've read our newsletters, you will probably know this as well. We'll use a SpongeBob GIF over here and say, kind of an easy one, but yes, the Eiffel Tower is in France. And hit save. Over here, I mean, they should know that the Eiffel Tower is in France, so we're gonna go we're gonna go easy on the prospect. If they got it wrong, we're not gonna be too hard on them. We're gonna again send them a GIF. So over here, do we have a GIF for the incorrect one? We don't have a third GIF. I might just reuse the you're wrong one so that I don't have to go and look for another one. If you guys are making your own quiz, be sure to use a different GIF. Just because if they got 2 of them wrong, it'll be a little repetitive. If they got the first one wrong, they'll see this GIF. If they got the third one wrong, they'll see this GIF. So just to avoid being repetitive, go ahead and add a different GIF over here. The Eiffel, that's the Eiffel Tower. Let's make it capitalized. It's in France. And we can add maybe a laughing emoji. I said that we wouldn't be too hard on them, but I'm going to make a little bit of fun. I'm going to have a little bit of fun at the expense of the prospect, just because they should know where the Eiffel Tower is. Cut that, paste that over there, hit X, and add no input as an option. Once that's done, we can hit save. And now, finally, I've said it at least 3 times now, we can move on to the calculation part. So they've responded to each one of the questions that we have, that we've asked them. We've given them a score for each one of those questions using the option value, and we need to add all of those up. Now to do that, we are going to rely on an API. So create another Gambit, connect the last 2 correct and wrong responses to that Gambit, jump in, give it a descriptive name, something like calculation, because this is where we're going to do our calculation. Acknowledge the user input and tell them that we are calculating their score. So we can say something like, okay, I'm calculating your score and your prize in brackets, in parentheses, wink. Emojis are a great way to add just a little bit of visualness to your bots. It just makes it a little bit more engaging. And your prize right now, hold on for just a second. We can actually do a better job of closing this out, I think. So I'm going to actually add another message bubble over here and say, and with that, you have completed our quiz, completed this quiz. Hold on for just a second. I'm going to do something a little bit interesting over here. I'm going to tell the user that we're calculating their quiz results. I'm going to add a message delay over here of maybe 3 or 4 seconds so that they think there's something happening behind the scenes. And the bot is calculating what their prize is. And then after 4 seconds, it's going to say, okay, when you are ready, hit the button below and I'll reveal your prize. Give them a button that says reveal prize. Reveal prize. We can throw in an icon as well, just because I love icons. I wonder what would be a good icon over here. Let's go with the lightning bolt, because I think it's a cool icon. Okay, so now the bot has asked them all of the questions. We've got this calculation Gambit set up. It's telling them that they've completed the quiz and it's calculating their prize. But actually what we're going to do is we're going to calculate their score and as a result their prize, even before we've sent these messages. So what you want to do is jump into this Gambit, the calculation Gambit, select API config from the dropdown at the top of the page. And that's going to pop up this, this configuration section over here. Now this configuration section might look extremely complicated to you, especially if you haven't programmed before, but it's not as hard as it looks. And the API that we are going to use in this quiz bot is really not that it's really not that difficult to use. So don't get too flustered. It's going to be okay. So the API we're going to use in this is actually the Math.js API. It's super easy to use. To access it, you need to go to api.mathjs.org. And over here, what we can essentially do is we can send this API requests with certain calculations, and it'll spit out the response to us. So what you want to do is scroll down. Don't use the first method over here, the get method. Use the post method. So go down to where it says post, and then under the HTTP request. Under the HTTP request option, select the URL over here, copy it. So Control-C, copy, jump back into the quiz bot, and paste that into the API endpoint field over here. API endpoint URL, paste the URL over there. Now the next thing that you want to do is you want to select raw over here. So data/body should be selected. It should be in blue, and then select raw. That's going to show you a little bit of a notepad looking screen over here. Now in this notepad looking screen, we are going to define the calculation that we want Math.js to make. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to add 2 curly braces. Everything that we send to an API is going to the Math.js API is going to go in these curly braces. These curly braces basically indicate that we're sending them a JSON. If you're familiar with JavaScript at all, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But just add the curly braces over here, and then in between the curly braces, so over here, I have just hit the return button or the enter button, and in between, I'm going to type EXPR, and I'm going to put that word in quotes. So EXPR basically just means expression. So that's the expression we are going to send to math.js. And within this expression, we can actually send the API a math equation to solve. So over here, let's go with 1 + 1 + 12 and hit the send button. It's going to give us a response where the result is 14, which is 1 + 1 + 12. Now, of course, we don't want to make the calculation as 1 + 1 + 12. We want to make the calculation as whatever the option value that the user selected was. So if they selected France over here, we want to add 1 to the expression. If they selected London over here, we want to add 0. And if they selected Ireland over here, we want to add 0, and their total score will be 1, right? So the way we do that is we use the data referencing feature in the TARS builder. And essentially what that is you can basically refer to data that the bot has collected earlier on in the conversation in API calls or in your messages. And the way you do that, again, you use curly braces. So in this case, we're actually going to use double curly braces. So just make 2 curly braces and then close both of those curly braces out. Go into the middle of those curly braces, and now I'm gonna type something out, and I'm gonna explain what it means immediately after. So go ahead and type uval dot, and then the name of the Gambit where the initial question was. So over here in question 1, this is where we have registered the value that the user has selected. So over here they selected France. Over here their option value has been registered as 1. So uval.q1. So go back in here, uval.q1. Q1. If you guys have any questions about this or not, it's not making sense, feel free to drop me a question or a message because this can be a little bit confusing. So now over here, what we've basically done is we've told the bot that when it is sending the expression to math.js, the first number that it wants to add is the option value, so the u value, uval of question one. So uval.question1 in these curly braces tells the bot that it needs to send whatever the option value of the user's response in question one was. Now we want to do a similar thing for the other two questions. So Q2, we want to take the uval from here, the option value from here. And for Q3, we want to do the exact same thing. We want to take that option value. Over here, we are going to jump back in. We're going to say plus, because we're adding all of these together to get the score. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we did for question one. So double curly braces, uval dot Q2. Again, for question 3, plus double curly braces, uval dot Q3. And with that, we've set the expression up. Now, if you want to actually test out whether this expression is working, a good way to do that is to spit the output out in your message bubbles. And the way you actually access the output for this message is, again, we're going to have to use data referencing. So I'm just going to Control X. I'm going to cut the expression that we have here. Hit +1, +0. Just give it a test value. Over here, whenever you send math.js an expression, so 1 + 1 + 0, it's going to give you the response kind of like this in a JavaScript object, so a JSON. And we want to access the result key over here because that is the one that has the option over here, which has the score over here. It has 2, right? And the way we do that, again, is through data referencing. So in this message bubble, we are going to create the double curly braces. Every time you use the data referencing feature, you need to use the double curly braces to tell the bot that you are referring to a piece of data elsewhere in the conversation. Now within this, instead of using the uval option, we are going to use the pre option. Now what pre does is pre tells the bot to look at the area before the messages. So pre the messages for data. So over here, by saying by saying curly braces pre, it is going to look at the area before the messages in all of the gambits. So over here in the calculation gambit, it is going to okay, so we have a question over here about personality quizzes. I'm actually going to answer this at the end of the question. At the end of the session. But that's a great question. So over here, we are referencing them to the bot to the beginning of the gambit. So pre, and then we're going to give it the gambit name. So pre.calculation. So now we have pointed the bot to this entire area over here. Specifically the result over here. So we are pointing the bot to this entire JavaScript object, and we want to select the result option. And the way we do that is pre.calculation. So we're pointing over here, and then we add .result. Now, if we hit save over here, publish the chatbot, and actually try it out. So let's hit the preview and go through the quiz. You can see that it will calculate the correct response. Or actually, we kept the response as 1 + 1 + 0, so it's just going to spit out that response over there. So what we want to do is go back to the uval options that we had, hit save, publish, and actually let's just open it up in a new tab. Now we have our quiz ready. We're going to see if our calculation is working right. It might not, for all I know. I think the API has changed since the last time I used it, so fingers crossed that it's going to work. Hit start quiz. The first question is a bit of a tricky one. Which country gets the most visitors per year? Let's give it an incorrect option. Let's say Spain. It's going to say, you're wrong. I'm afraid the correct answer is actually France. They receive over 85 million tourists per year. Moving on. Which city gets the most visitors per year? Let's say Bangkok. It's going to say bingo. Bangkok is the most visited city in the world, 22.78 million tourists. And for the last one, we'll give it a correct option. France, it's going to say correct. kind of an easy one. And the quiz is complete. Now it's going to calculate our score. It's going to say, okay, when you're ready, hit the button. And as you can see, this data reference that we put over here to check the score result is working. So we've essentially calculated the score. We got 2 questions correct and 1 wrong, so the score is 2. We calculated the score over here by adding all of the option values out, and we printed it out into this message. And as you can see, the result of that expression is 2, just as we'd expect it to be. So we know that our calculation is working. Now we can take this pre.calculation data reference and actually cut it. So keep it to your clipboard. So Control X and delete this message. Now, once they say reveal their prize, we want to show them a different set of messages depending on what their score was, right? So if they got all 3 of the questions correct, that's amazing. They got everything correct, and we want to say, congratulations, you got this prize. If they got 2 of them correct, that's all right. It's, you know, it's an okay score. Or actually, we can even say that that's a pretty good score. So we can say, good job, you got 2 out of 3 correct. You get this prize. And if they got 0 or 1 correct, that's not a particularly good score. So we want to be like, we want to say something like, oh man, you didn't do so well, but we'll give you this prize to fix that. Okay, so I'm getting this question again about personality quizzes. We will answer that question at the end of the session. I just want to finish up with the creation of this bot, and then I will get to that. So where was I? Okay, so what we want to do is, based on what the user's score is, we want to branch them off in different directions. So they click this button, and then based on what we calculate their score to be up here, we want to send them in completely different directions. And the way we do that is you select the conditional jump config option at the bottom of the Gambit. And that's going to show you this configuration over here. And essentially over here, what we can do is we can tell the bot to move in different directions based on certain values. So over here, I'm going to add a branch, and I'm going to paste that same data reference that we made earlier. So pre.calculation.result. So this is pointing to the result of this expression. So if their score is 2 or 3, we want to send them in a certain direction because they did a good job on the quiz. So if the score is 3, and then we add another condition, over here we select or their score is 2. So over here, if pre.calculation.result is 3, so if their score is 3 or their score is 2, we send them in direction 1. And then we can add another branch that says if their score is 1 or if their score is 0, we want to send them in another direction. But given the way we've structured our quiz, and given the way we've structured our math.js call over here, the only possible scores that they can have are 3, 2, 1, or 0, right? So basically, we've accounted for the 3 and 2 options, and the only remaining possible options are 0 and 1. And we already have this default branch down here. And the default branch, the way it works is basically all other conditions other than these 2 branches, it's going to drop into the default branch. So since we know that past 3 and 2, the only 2 other options are 0 and 1, we don't actually need to have this branch because we can just send all of them into all of the rest of them, the 0s and 1s, into the default branch because we know that's what their score will be. Because if they were 2 or 3, which are the other 2 options, they'd be in the first branch. So we're going to delete that branch and hit save. Now, if you look at this calculation over here, there's going to be one branch for if they got 3 or 2, and there's going to be another branch if they got 0 or 1. And we want to create a corresponding Gambit for each one of these. So create 2 Gambits, connect them up, and now this is where the magic happens in the quiz. So we've done the calculation, we've made this API call, and we're going to give them a prize of sorts based on their response. So we're going to end the conversation there, or actually, you know what? It depends on what the prize is. Over here, since this is a travel group one, I'm going to say they get a free consultation with one of our travel advisors, and they get 10% off maybe. we can say, you did really well. This is the people who got 2 or 3. You did really well on that quiz. To reward you for your achievement, I'm giving you a free consultation with one of our travel advisors who will create a custom vacation plan for you for free. And since there's a lot of text over there, I'm going to drop the drop an emoji over there. Share your email below, and I'll connect you with them. Again, we are going to drop a pointing emoji over there to just make it a little bit more visual. So we can rename this Gambit prize and ask them for their email. Now to get them to share their email, keep it on the text input option for the user input type and select email from the input type within the text config. This is going to ensure that they're sharing an email ID with you. Similarly, on the side where they got everything, where they got 0 or 1, so they didn't do so well, we can say, I'm afraid you didn't do so well on that quiz. To get you up to speed with travel knowledge, I recommend that you go on more vacations. Go on more vacations. If you leave your email ID below, I'll connect you with one of our travel planners who will create a custom itinerary for you for free. Again, let's drop the point emoji, adjust the message delays over here, and capture their email. Now, once they've shared their email, we want to close out the conversation. So we want to say thanks for their time. The person will be in touch with them soon. So acknowledge their input first. We can say, great. They'll be in touch with you soon. Thanks for, oh, I don't know why I keep hitting the caps lock button. Thanks for speaking with me today. And I hope you had fun. Adjust the message delays. And if you haven't used the TARS builder before, at the end of the conversation, from the user input type, we select auto page redirection. Rename the Gambit end and hit save. And with that, we have created an entire quiz chatbot, and we can see how it works. So hit the publish button, open it up in a new tab. I'm really hoping that the calculation part works over here. Because the API has definitely changed since the last time I used it, and I just want to be extra sure that it is working. So hit the start quiz button. We can go through the questions really quick. Great. The first question is a bit of a tricky one. Okay, let's go with America. Give it an incorrect option. You're wrong. I'm afraid the correct answer is actually France. They receive over 85 million. 84.5 million tourists every year. Moving on, which city gets the most visitors per year? Let's select Bangkok. Okay, bingo. Bangkok is the most visited city in the world with a staggering 22.78 million tourists per year. Final question. Let's say France. Correct. Kind of an easy one, but yes, the Eiffel Tower is in France. And with that, you completed the quiz. I'm calculating your score. hold on for just a second. As you know from creating the bot with me just now, the calculation is actually happening before we send those messages. Okay, when you're ready, hit the button below and I'll reveal your prize. You did really well on that quiz. So we got 2 questions correct. So the bot has basically jumped into this conditional jump. It has figured out, based on the result of this calculation, that they got 2 questions correct. And because they've got 2 questions correct, they have sent them down the first branch. And that first branch takes them to this message over here, which says, you did really well on that quiz. And that's exactly what we can see in our bot conversation over here. It's going to say, to reward you for your achievement, I'm giving you a free consultation. Made a mistake over there. There's a space between U and A. Share your email ID below. So let me share my email ID, doris.com. And now it's going to close out the conversation. And with that, you've created a user engagement quiz that actually captures a lead in this case. You can use this for a whole bunch of different use cases. We've seen a lot of people use the We've seen a lot of people use these quizzes as a way to distribute coupons. So over here, you could say, instead of a free consultation, here's a coupon code, use it on our website and you'll get 20% off on your next vacation, on the next vacation that you get planned through us. Or depending on your company, that can be or what you sell, that can be a completely different coupon selling a completely different thing. Really quick, before we jump into the Q&As, I know we've gone on for a little bit of time. I'm going to show you guys how you can actually check the data that your bot is collecting over here. I'm seeing some messages that are asking whether there's going to be a recording. There is absolutely going to be a recording after this. So really quick, before we go to the Q&As and close out this webinar, I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, this bot looks a little plain, so I'm going to jump into the design section. And actually this time I'm going to pick a theme. So if you scroll down over here, you can actually select an awesome set of themes. So we're going to go ahead and select this one over here. And instead of using the regular chat background, I'm going to select a gradient. So there are these awesome looking gradients over here that you can select from that our tech team has spent a lot of time curating. My favorite one is actually this one. Nope, is it that one? No, I think it's this one over here. Hit the save button. Now the bot looks kind of cool. And now we can actually also go ahead and check the data that the bot is collecting. So as always, click the check data button on the left side of the screen. You have several options on how to handle this data. So if you click view, you can view all of the interactions the bot has had. Right now, all of them are test interactions because I was the one interacting with them. The builder can sense when it's you who's interacting with the bot. So it adds a test value over there so you know that that's not an actual customer. You can go to the integration section and use Zapier to send it to your favorite CRM, or if you have a coupon disbursement system, you can use Zapier for that. You can analyze the data, so look at some like top level statistics using the timeline graph. You can see how it performs over time. And if you're a real data nerd, you can jump into the export section and pull out all of that data as a CSV and play around with it in Excel. And with that, I think we've covered pretty much everything. We're going to send you guys a recording of this. So if any of this was confusing, you can just re-watch the entire video. And of course, we have an intercom widget in our builder. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us over here. I'm going to let you guys go if you need to. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A section. I know that someone already has had a question over here. And this is, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce your name correct. I think it's Arndt. Is there a way to build personality quizzes? with result from e.g. 4 different types. There absolutely is. So it all comes down to the way you structure your questions and your branching, right? So if you have a set of questions that can be used to calculate what personality what personality type a person is, you can ask those questions over here. And then the only thing that will be slightly different is your calculation gambit. I assume for a personality quiz, you cannot just use a simple math.js call. You can't simply just add up a bunch of scores. You might need to make a custom API for that, or maybe an API exists out there to make those calculations for you. So that's the only thing I assume will change. If you do need help with that, and you do need help building out that custom API, or need some pointers in what direction you can go to get that done, feel free to reach out to us through the intercom widget at the bottom right of the screen. That's a little bit more of a complex use case, but it's definitely possible through the DARS builder. It really depends on what APIs are available and what you might have to build out on your own. Are there any other questions? I'm gonna stay here for maybe a minute more. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section. If not, feel free to drop out of this call. I hope you guys have enjoyed this session. It was a lot of fun for me to prepare. Quiz chatbots are always some of the more fun chatbots to create, just because they let you. First of all, quizzes are fun on their own, but other than that, they just let you play around with a lot of the cool features that we have in the DARS builder. So we use the option value feature to register the values of each of the answers over here. We used the API integration feature to make the calculation of the quiz score. We use the conditional jump feature to show people different messages based on what their score was. And of course, we use the data referencing feature a bunch of times to pull information from elsewhere in the conversation. Oh, we have another question. What is the most visited kitchen in the world? That's a great question, Vineet. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I assume it's maybe the most popular restaurant in the world has the most. Actually, no, I guess not, because only the chefs visit that kitchen. Maybe like a kitchen showroom or something. Yeah, this is Vineet from the tech team. He apparently attended the webinar, and he is asking me what the most visited kitchen in the world is. I don't know if you guys can see that on my screen. But great question, Vineet. Super insightful, very pertinent to the topic at hand. Always appreciate getting questions for that. So actually, I'm going to end this conversation right now. End this webinar right now. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us using the intercom widget in the bottom right of the builder. We'd be more than happy to help you get set up with any of the features that we were talking about today. And we'd be more than happy to give you a personal walkthrough of how you can build a quiz chatbot of your own. Thank you guys for attending. I actually have a contact us slide over here. So if you guys have any questions, go to the recording, go all the way to the end. You can also reach out to us on either this number that you're seeing on your screen right now, or on my email, which is arnav@hellotars.com. Thank you guys for attending. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Oh, wait, we are getting a couple of more questions. Oh, no, they're just comments. Awesome.